Hi everyone, welcome to this new episode of GemRuby Show. Today we have the great opportunity, the great honor to be with Stephen. Hello Stephen, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm really good too. And so as usual, I want to ask you if you want to present yourself, who you are, where you're working at today, and what you're working on currently.
Yeah, thank you. So, as you said, I'm Stephen Margheim. I'm at Fractaled Mind on Twitter. Um, by day, I am the head of engineering for a company here in Berlin called Test.io. But by
Okay.
night, I am a avid, some might say mildly addicted, um, open source contributor working a lot right now at the sort of intersection of SQLite and Rails.
Okay, super cool. So yeah, like you said, we are going to talk about SQLite today and on the ecosystem that is this wonderful piece of software. I think first because it's SQL, yeah, and then because there is a lot of simple things that are wonderful in this software. Before we begin with the usual question of the podcast, I would like to ask you what makes you feel that you want to work on the SQLite ecosystem, and did you discover all this ecosystem? You know.
Yeah, well, it started by my introduction to SQLite many, many years ago.
Okay.
I got into software development while I was in graduate school. I used to be a an academic, and I was looking for ways to use my computer to be a more effective
Okay.
academic. And that process led me to creating a lot of Alfred workflows. If you use the Alfred app on Mac,
Hmm.
it's like an enhanced Spotlight
Yeah.
that allows for extensibility. In that ecosystem, SQLite is the persistence layer that is used because
Hmm.
it's on everyone's Mac already, and it's very easy to create a new file. And you can't connect to an external Postgres server from a script in one of these apps. And so I came across it there, and as I researched more about it, I just sort of fell in love with how it approached software, their approach to testing, like having logically exhaustive tests, their approach to backwards compatibility. So I've been a fan of SQLite, the project, for many years.
Okay.
Then more recently, I have been creating a number of internal applications here at my day job. These were applications that I knew I was going to be the only person maintaining, and I have a lot of other responsibilities. And so I was sort of maniacally focused on simplicity. Simple for me to create, simple for me to deploy, and simple for me to maintain. I had seen some people talking about using SQLite as their database for their web applications.
Okay.
And I remembered my experience. And I thought, yes, this seems like the right approach. This is going to be simple. So I
Okay.
started using it for these internal apps, and the experience was as delightful as I was hoping. So fast and so straightforward. And I just really enjoyed working with it. And then as I got curious and started pushing into the edges of
Yeah.
what was available and possible in a Rails application, I started bumping into more people on Twitter with similar interests and explorations, and it snowballed from there.
It was a long-lasting love story,
Yeah.
and then you rediscovered it recently, and you were like, I need to do my part and to do my job in this ecosystem and for this piece of software that is really simple, really cool, and maybe beautiful. And it is my next question actually. What makes this piece of software so beautiful to your eyes? What makes it so much better than other software?
Well, I have been someone who thinks along the lines of the choose boring tech mantra. If you've ever
Yeah.
read that post or seen that talk, that has always resonated with me. And I think it resonates particularly strongly like with the Rails ecosystem,
Hmm.
the sort of driving vision of Rails to be a single developer stack, trying to create leverage and opportunity to allow one developer to create an entire product. So I feel like Rails and SQLite fit very nicely together at this level of being high leverage, boring technologies. They are meant to be simple to get started with, but powerful, right? So you're not trading power for simplicity. You are looking for that sweet spot where you get the most power that you can get for the most simplicity that you can find.
It seems that you like pragmatism, and the stuff have to be done. And after, if we have some issues, then we can think about the issues and how to solve them. Let's not over-engineer the thing at first and just taking the thing around, and when they come to us, right?
Exactly.
Really cool. Yeah, we have the opportunity to discuss a bit before the podcast. You've worked around the SQLite ecosystem and Rails. You said on the Twitter and on X, you said that you will release a gem around SQLite 3 and ActiveRecord. Please tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so in the last couple of weeks, I have been opening a number of pull requests against the Rails repository to improve the support for active record features and using SQLite as your database engine. And my timing was a little bit unfortunate, as it came right before the Rails 7.1 release. So I ended up, over the course of the last 2 weeks, opening 6 pull requests. And 4 of them made it into Rails before the 7.1 release candidate, but 2 of them didn't, and they were 2 of the larger ones I was hoping to get in. So I wanted to bring that functionality to Rails users. And I also want to have a sandbox of sorts to be able to start exploring future functionality to enhance the developer experience of using SQLite with ActiveRecord and with Rails.
Cool.
Before then trying to see which of those features make the most sense to upstream into Rails itself.
You have been hacking around and wanted to improve the experience around SQLite and the feature, because there is some feature that you have improved in the new ActiveRecord release of Rails 7.1. Yeah, you want to be able to provide that to everyone, that and even the features and the functionality that do not cut it in the new release. It's really nice to you, and you've talked about the vision of that. If there's some additional thing that you want to do with that, or it is for now this is the vision to do some sandbox about SQLite and improve and bringing the new functionality to 7.1.
Yeah, that is the core feature and vision right now. That is an evolved vision from my vision 2 days ago. As originally, I was hoping to bring this suite of functionality to Rails 7.1 as well as Rails 7.0 applications. But in beginning to build out the gem, I was confronted with the reality that there have been a lot of changes to ActiveRecord in the last 2 years. And many of those changes are deeply connected to the new features that I have been working on for Rails. So I'm still uncertain of whether or not it is possible or prudent to try to extract all of those changes and attempt to backport them to Rails 7.0, but possibly. That's something I'm going to need to continue investigating. But for now, I want to have something that is useful. And luckily, I think a lot of people using Rails are fairly proactive about upgrading. So there's still going to be a lot of people on Rails 7.1. And for those users, bringing these enhanced functionalities to the SQLiteAdapter is going to be worth the effort.
It's really cool to have this inside vision during the build of the gem, because it is the first time that we have a gem that is going to be built and is going to exist in some in some time. So it's really cool, and it's really nice to you to present it to us today. It is also one of the questions I ask a lot. It is, what is the main technical difficulties? And you have already answered that by this evolve, this another vision of what could be the gem. And I have a little question for you that maybe you did not think of. Do you know how the gem will be called?
Yes, I need to go and push it up to Ruby Gems to go ahead and reserve the name, but it will have long-winded but clear name of ActiveRecordEnhancedSqlite3Adapter.
Really cool. Really cool. Really original, I have to say. No, really cool. Thanks for this, because it is a question that I haven't told you about. So thanks to responding with honesty. What is really cool about your contribution also is that you have contributed to a lot to OSS and another gem, so Rails. You have also another gem that you have created, and you are the core maintainer, which is AcidicJob. As of today, is that something that brings you value to contribute to OSS?
Yes, for sure. It is one of the downsides to getting into engineering management is you just have a lot less time and opportunity to do software engineering. It is more important for my day job that I be in meetings than I be typing. But I still see myself primarily as a software engineer. I still love building Ruby on Rails applications. And for me, open source contributions have been the primary way that I am able to stay connected to the Rails community, to the Ruby community, that I find outlets for my interests and curiosities and obsessions. So it has been essential, I would say, to keeping me sane as I try to strike a balance between wanting to continue to explore and meet new people and come across new ideas as a software engineer, but also fulfill my obligations as a manager at my job.
It seems that you have this needs of doing things manually, have the hand in the machine, in the machinery, if I can say, and there is this need of pragmatism maybe that makes you want to cut stuff. But it's really cool because I mean, we are eventually engineers and we want to do stuff. I wanted to ask you about another thing. We've talked about technical difficulties. I see a lot of hype around the SQLite ecosystem. There is some DHH tweet about a project once that they will deliver with SQLite as a backend database. Do you see some non-technical challenges in the future to the adoption of the SQLite ecosystem with Rails?
Yes, short answer. But sarcasm aside, I think that there are mostly non-technical challenges to the increased adoption of SQLite in Rails. There are a number of myths that I have found are deeply embedded in the minds of the large majority of software engineers. When most engineers hear the idea of using SQLite in production, they immediately think that can't be right. That doesn't make sense. That would be dangerous. And my sense is that this default thought is driven by two myths in particular. The first one is that it is just too risky to use SQLite in production because if you lose your single server that is both serving your app and also the file system of which is holding your database, then you lose all of your data and company goes out of business. But there are many tools available today to make backing up SQLite databases very easy and painless. My personal favorite is a tool called Lightstream, which will connect your SQLite database to any S3 compatible bucket storage system, stream every transaction into that bucket. So you get point in time recovery with loosely point in time recovery. Very easy setup. I've written about how straightforward it is to set it up on my blog. And there are multiple other tools that do very similar things. So backing up your data and ensuring that you don't have a single file on a single machine, that if you lose that file in that machine, your entire company disappears. That's an easily solvable problem. And then the second myth that I have bumped into a lot is that, well, SQLite doesn't scale. And I'm using scare quotes. I think that there is a growing recognition that software engineers have done a lot of things in the name of scalability that are non-pragmatic. One of the things I like about DHH's tweet that you just referenced is his recognition that it's worth rethinking the assumptions that we had maybe 10 years ago about what was reasonable or possible, given the advancement of hardware today. And I think my sort of rough rule of thumb is that whatever any developer imagines as the maximum possible scale that a single machine with a single SQLite database file could reach, they are very likely off by at least one order of magnitude. SQLite does scale. It scales, and running your entire business off of a single server also scales. But as you said earlier, if you do have the opportunity to be successful enough to reach those limits, you then have the resources and the necessity to figure out what you want that next step to be. But I just fundamentally don't believe that it makes sense to make decisions at the very beginning of a project or a business that are clearly non-pragmatic today in hopes that they will make your life easier in a potential future scenario 5-10 years from now, where you are, oh my goodness, I'm trying to serve 1 million daily active users across the entire globe. But even 1 million daily active users, you could definitely scale to with a single machine in SQLite. Like these numbers are quite large. The vast majority of projects will never reach them. But I do think that getting developers to understand what is possible and what is pragmatic is the number one challenge to increasing people's openness to using SQLite in production.
Yeah, it seems that there is a lot of misconception about what SQLite is capable of.
To maybe give one example, we could ourselves play the expectation game. So I would be curious, if you had to guess, what do you believe would be the largest possible SQLite file? So you have one database, it's stored in one file. What is the absolute biggest that SQLite could handle?
I did not think about that before, to be honest. So about like this, I would say, naturally, I would say 10 gigabytes. But to be, if, like you said, we have an order of magnitude. So maybe 100 gigabytes, that could be the fit.
Right. So to demonstrate just how unnatural our expectations are, the answer is 280 terabytes.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Which maybe at some point in our lifetimes, we will see a machine that has a file system that could hold a 280 terabyte file. That would be kind of cool. It doesn't exist today. But as just a demonstration of how limited our assumptions tend to be, and you can play similar games with the number of read operations that you can handle in a second, the number of write operations you can handle in a second, the size of a machine that you can get. So much of the assumptions that we as a software development community have built up over the last 2 decades are rooted in a reality that is 5, 10, 15 years old. And so much changes so quickly, especially in the world of hardware, but as well in the world of software, that the limits of where pure vertical scaling can take you with SQLite are just consistently wildly underestimated.
We have this mental bias, and as you said, you can do a lot of stuff and a lot of great stuff with it. And I wanted to ask you a question about, aside of the simplicity of SQLite, to your point of view, what would be the major benefits to use it in production today? We've talked about a lot of, before the podcast, a lot of cool stuff that is bringing SQLite due to the fact it is a file. From your point of view, what is the best thing that would help the developer actually and the engineers?
Yeah, that's a important question. I think that there are 3 major benefits to sort of group them.
Okay.
So the first one is performance. When you remove the need to make a network call to get your data, it is orders of magnitude faster. This is why so many applications want to use Redis these days, though oddly now, in the name of scalability, many companies and projects put a Redis instance on a separate server and then talk to it over the network. But the performance gains that you get from talking over pure I/O to SQLite as compared to talking over HTTP to some Postgres or MySQL server can be astounding. I mean, they can be 10 times greater. The second major benefit is, as you said, a sort of after effect of the operational simplicity of just working with files, where it becomes so much more straightforward to do various kinds of operational tasks, whether that is cloning your production database down to your local machine so that you can test a big migration to see how long it's going to take, or test a new feature that you're building that is going to have some performance considerations, and you want to make sure that you have a large amount of data. Like that is just a single shell command to do a remote copy of a file. And there are many others of these kinds of sort of operational tasks that become so simple, snapshotting your local database, or even my personal favorite, which is setting up your Rails application to have separate databases for each of your Git branches. So you can just completely avoid the problem of schema conflicts as you are jumping between branches doing pull request reviews, and it's literally a 2-line change in your Rails application. So that kind of developer experience simplicity is the second one. And then the third real benefit, I think, is it puts you in the right, this is a little bit fuzzier, but it puts you in the right mindset for considering the importance of simplicity and making boring choices. When you make that first decision, you're like, okay, I'm just going to start with a single machine and I'll use SQLite and I'm going to get going. It opens up the world of possibilities. Just to give you a specific example, once you use SQLite to back your active record models and you are working on a project and you get to a place where you're going to add like a chat functionality and you're like, okay, time to use action cable from Rails. This is going to be nice. I'll do it really quick. In that moment, you are more likely to think about the possibility that you don't need to set up a Redis server and then figure out how to connect your application server to the Redis server to stream things you might consider. I wonder if you can back action cable with SQLite, and you might do some Googling and you might come across a project like the Lightstack project and you'll see, oh, it is possible. And you bring that in and you are able to get real-time action cable broadcasts without having to cross the bridge of setting up a separate service on a separate server and making sure that your network architecture properly and securely connects them and you don't expose that server to all of the operational things that come with it. And having that mindset that choose boring technology mindset, that high leverage mindset, that pragmatic mindset will serve you so incredibly well, especially as you're starting out on a project where all of that like decision making and operational time is so costly. So embracing it allows you to sort of see what really is possible. And once you see what's possible, you realize how far you can get with this boring and simple technology that just stores data on a file in your file system.
It's interesting because I'm used to Postgres, actually. I really like Postgres. I think it's a really good piece of software too. And it is the default choice. But as I've discussed with you, and I've seen the hype around the SQLite ecosystem, I was like, that's really great too, you know? I think that there is this thing about innovation. We sometimes say there is more features, so it's innovation and it's better. But actually, if we use SQLite in the new Rails app that will be created in the next years, it will be innovation and there's this resistance to change, you know, and it is what we have to fight from ourselves. I really think that when you understand the technologies that you use, you deeply understand them, and you use them in all the way, all the range they can be used to, even if they are not exactly made for that. But if you can extract the most of the thing out of them, then you will understand your real issues, and then you will say, yeah, I need these technologies, these special technologies, because I have this special issue, and I can't do without it. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that is a really important point. I think that there's a natural tendency for developers to want to choose a large number of specific tools that solve specific problems instead of choosing a small number of general tools. But I think that there's so much value to choosing a smaller number of powerful general tools. And I think one of the most important values is that when you choose one tool and really try to become an expert in it and to use it to its fullest, it becomes so much easier to debug problems and to maintain your system. And that is the biggest thing that I have found in embracing SQLite in production. You know, for these internal applications that I have built, I am the only developer who maintains them, and I don't have a lot of time. So maintainability and the ease of maintainability is essential. So I have been stripping away as many layers of abstraction as possible so that I have a clear mental model of like what this system is doing that I can keep in my head, that I can get back into my head in a moment's notice when something goes wrong. And by deciding that I'm going to use SQLite to drive everything, it has made me learn a lot more about SQLite. I'm much more knowledgeable about it today than I was before. And through that knowledge, I have been able to debug like all of the problems that have come up in 30 minutes instead of 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I need to know Rails really well, and I need to know SQLite really well. And those are the only two things that my entire system uses. And I have taken the time to learn them both well, such that now it is possible for me to address problems quickly, because I'm not, what is this error message in Redis? I never bump into Redis. I don't think about Redis. Or here's the vector database I'm using. Here's the persistent data storage I'm using. Here's the analytic storage I'm using. Here's the event storage I'm using. Here's the storage bucket service I'm using. It's just impossible to learn 8 different tools well. And so you're going to have that pain whenever something goes wrong. And of course, something will go wrong. That is a law of the universe.
The Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's such a valuable thing for developers to think about, like that there is this easy to overlook benefit to choosing boring technologies and choosing a small number of them and really embracing them and digging into them and becoming knowledgeable in them.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to find the single perfect tool for this single specific problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I think that by becoming an expert in one technology, you will be way more comfortable with new technologies, because there is a lot of problem, if I can say, that will come and happen in all the stack and actually I was thinking about something. There is a lot of similarities between Ruby, Rails, and SQLite actually, because there's this same amount of misconception where we say, oh, it can scale. Oh, it is not suitable for this. It seems that SQLite is even more in the Rails philosophy, and even it comes as the first database that you can use. And I think that it will be my last question today, and I wanted to end up with this question, which is a question that I ask in all the episode. But today, with your participation, your involvement in different open source software in the SQLite ecosystem, what makes you the proudest about all this contribution and all this work that you are doing? Even not in the SQLite ecosystem, it could be with your precedent gem, AcidicJob, what makes you the proudest today?
Well, today the answer would probably have to be the contributions that I was able to get into Rails. I think that being able to make the default experience for Rails developers who choose to use SQLite as strong and performant and featureful as possible is vitally important. And I'm hoping that as more and more people see the value and utility of choosing to use SQLite as their database engine in their Rails applications, more and more people will start to get involved in making that experience with the Rails infrastructure as pleasant and powerful as possible. And being able to take some small part in that has felt incredibly cool.
I think it is like a graal for us developers and especially open source contributors to contribute to the main framework that we use every day, the tool that we love. So congratulations, I guess. To be proud of it, it is something really important, actually. So yeah, thank you, Stephen. And thank you to everyone that have listened to this podcast today. Thank you, Stephen, again, to have been here. Do you want to tell us where we can find you on the internet, X, any social media, GitHub even, that we can find you?
Yeah, so I am at Fractaled Mind everywhere, Twitter, GitHub, and I write on my blog, fractaledmind.github.io, a simple GitHub Pages blog. And yeah, thank you, Lucas, so much for having me. This has been a great conversation, and I'm really looking forward to working with you more as we both continue to explore the space of what is possible with SQLite and Rails applications.
Yeah, it will be my pleasure, actually. Thanks a lot to have been here. As I said, thanks a lot, everyone. You can find me on the internet too at @yet_another_Dave. Thank you, Stephen. See you soon, I hope, when the gem will be released and you will just improve everyone SQLite experiences. I'm really keen to see what will happen in the ecosystem. Actually, thanks again. See you, Stephen. Bye.
See you. Bye.